is America.
America!
I do love America.
Be a part of the show at 850-233-9988. The Kramer Show on NewsTalk at 101.
Here we are, 7:05. Scott Major from Major Parúas and the Storm Help team. Been here for over a month, or a year rather. Every Tuesday and Thursday, opening up the phones for you to call in. So if you have a legal question concerning Hurricane Michael, post-Hurricane Michael, insurance, contracting, any facet, 850-233-9988. In for Scott Major today is Brian Parúas. Brian Parúas, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, my friend.
How are things?
Excited. All is well. I'm a little sore this morning. A little bit sore. I think Scott is too. We got beat up yesterday by a 9th degree black belt here at the office, just for fun. It's the way we roll.
So what happened? So what, was he just like a client and he was visiting and
he's a client and friend, known him for many years, and he's trained Special Forces, the Israeli Special Forces here in the U.S. as well, the Air Marshal Service, local PD, and he is just, wow, he's an impressive individual. The first time I met him, we were drinking at a school carnival, and I kind of walked up to him. I was still in the service back then. I go, "Oh, I heard you're a pretty tough guy, huh? You're a Grand Master. Pretty cool." And as we're drinking beer, he literally takes one hand and my thumb and locks it somehow, and it brings me down to my knees as he's finishing his beer. "How you doing down there, Brian?" I go, I couldn't talk.
Wow.
Impressive. He didn't use any power at all. It's just all technique. It's so impressive to watch. And literally, I was in pain for about a week from that one move he did on me.
That is really crazy. So, as a 9th degree black belt, you're considered a Grand Master at that point?
He is a Grand Master, correct. It's in the Philippines. He actually had to live in the Philippines to get to that level. And it's just impressive. He's 66 years old. He beat me up again yesterday without even blinking an eye. I mean, impressive.
That is really...
And he uses no power whatsoever. It's literally, he's like, "Brian, because as you get older, you lose that power, but you never lose these techniques." And it was very impressive because, he's out there teaching law enforcement non-lethal ways to bring people into compliance, which obviously lessens liability for the police and the police force. And people aren't, you don't have to beat them in the head with a club or tase them. He just uses the back of a knife to bring them into compliance, and it's mind blowing. You don't even need a gun. This guy with a knife is more dangerous than anybody with a gun. It's crazy.
That's so neat. And that's is that jiu-jitsu? Is that like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, or what is?
It's a different animal altogether. It's this knife fighting. It was developed in the Philippines. Actually, it's a Filipino martial art, and they don't believe in they don't believe in making it lethal. They do it to get you to comply. He can make you into a gimp. That's what he told me yesterday. "What do you mean, Bram? What do you mean make me into a gimp?" Literally, he makes 3 cuts. Cuts you in your forearms, both forearms, and cuts one leg, the muscle, and you can't use your hands and can't use that leg, and you're only left with the use of one leg. So what are you going to do then? Nothing.
Wow.
Handcuffs on you, you're done. They sew you back up and they put you in jail. Nobody dies.
Oh man. Some of the videos that I've seen lately show the police are getting into altercations, and it's disturbing because there are so many people that just have zero respect for the police and authority. And I was just talking to a friend, it was actually a client of mine, and I was talking to him the other day about, he's a police officer in New York City, and he said that I forget the name of the organization that asked him to be included, but I can't remember the name of it. But I told him, I said, "Look, I appreciate what you do, and for your community and within your job." And he said, "Man, I do so much for my community, and I do that job so that I'm able to do things in the community." But when you look at some of the videos that get posted out there about people that are resisting, it really is crazy. On the law side of that, do you guys do you see people that get in fights and scuffles with the police, and have we strengthened the laws on that end?
Well, yeah, at the end of the day, you don't want anybody to be abused and trample on someone's rights. That's the reality of the situation. We have gotten involved before in cases of police brutality, correct. But again, you have a few bad apples here, and most of the people in law enforcement are there for the right reasons. And it comes down to training, I feel. With proper training, it never gets to that. You know, if you're trained properly and you're a professional law enforcement person, you never have to come to blows with anybody, because when you are there, the officer presence, and you have your, you know, you look like a police officer, you act like a police officer, you treat people with respect. Typically, nothing happens. You know why I'm arresting you? Yes, sir, I do. Okay, put your hands behind your back, spread your legs, don't move, and you hook them up, and you're done. But it's when you get into these altercations and you're he said, she said, or you start, I'm stronger than you, you don't need to do any of that. It's just not necessary. They comply when they know you mean business, and 9 times out of 10, you don't have to do much of anything. Mm-hmm. But when you get into these situations where you're in over your head, you didn't call for backup, and you don't follow the protocols or the training that you've been given, you fall into these traps. Really, is what it becomes. It's just a trap.
Brian Parúas from Major Parúas and the Storm Help Team here to answer some questions if you got them about the hurricane, post-hurricane legal stuff. 233-9988, 850-233-9988. So on that front, I keep seeing businesses that are becoming open, and I love to see that. We still have a long way to go. But when businesses come to you, are you guys seeing a lot of success on that side, or is it taking longer and longer and longer on the insurance side for some of the businesses around here?
Well, yeah, the businesses, just like on the commercial and residential side, we are at the tail end of things now. If they've had a public adjuster or they've been working the claims themselves, we're literally telling them, look, we're going to file the lawsuit, not because we want to, but because we have to. Once we file the lawsuit, you can talk to lawyers here in my office. We're getting phone calls the next day from the adjuster or a counsel that they've assigned to, wanting to resolve these claims. We have to put the pressure on them, and the way you put pressure on them is to get them to spend money litigating the case against us, and that's the reality of the situation. We defend the insured. We protect the interests of public adjusters who have been working the claim up until this point. But right now is the time to file the lawsuit. It's a year out. There's no time to negotiate any longer, meaning without having the pressure of the lawsuit. Because once they start spending money on a claim that's worth $100,000 and they're spending $50 defending it, it just makes business sense to resolve this claim. It's not just because they should. It's because now it's costing them a lot of money.
Caller, you're up with Brian Parúas. Go ahead. Caller?
Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a friend that wants to buy a house down here, and you said something about one time about if you buy a house and they still have a claim on there with their insurance, it's assignment of benefits or something. Can you explain that to me and what it's called?
So you're saying that the person that he's trying to buy the house from has an assignment of benefits? Is that what the question is?
Well, what? There's a I don't even know how to explain it to you, but the other guy said that if you buy a house and the house is not completely rebuilt and they're still getting insurance money, make sure you sign a document, some kind of document to where you get the insurance money instead of the guy you're buying it from.
Oh, I kind of get that. I get that question. So, in other words, if you're buying a house and they're in the middle of a claim, what happens when you take over and buy the house?
Ooh, yeah, that's problematic. I'm not sure if I would get involved in that mess, especially the way things have been going. At the end of the day, you know, a lot of times you come into this case or to this situation, the homeowner who's selling the house has assigned their insurance benefits to either some sort of a contractor or a roofer, and they're getting the proceeds paid directly to them for the work they are doing. So if you come in later on in time, you're not part of this initial contract. So I think it would be, again, I would recommend to anyone, if you're purchasing a home, buy it after all the work's been done. You don't want to buy a house that's halfway completed. Although it may be a great deal, you may have a whole lot of work ahead of you, let alone litigation, if this contractor doesn't complete the work in a timely fashion. Where are you going to live? I mean, it just sounds like a big mess. And I would tell them, wait until this work is completed before you sign anything or you try to get involved. Because, again, you don't even know the contractor. You never hired them. You know, this is maybe an arm-length deal between the contractor and that homeowner, but you don't know who they are. You probably would have never hired them in the first place. So I would say back away from that. There's plenty of houses for sale in Florida. let alone in Panama City, that have been completed. It's a good time to buy homes in Panama City. You know why? Because they're all pretty much brand new now. And you're going to get insurance with no problem, probably a great deal of insurance, because you have a new roof, you have new windows, the house is in pristine condition now, and that's what you really want to look for, not a house that's halfway completed with some contractor you don't know, and they sign contracts between themselves that you don't even know about. So that's a situation.
I would assume, though, that there are a lot of houses that are going to be going up for sale because people chose to move away or whatever, and they may be offering the house for cheaper. But yeah, that's an interesting question in that a lot of them, you got to think, have not been completed. From damage from the storm. So then, technically, legally, how does that work? Just out of curiosity, if you're buying, if they sold the house, but they still have work that needs to be done on the house, can they actually sell it while there's work being done on it?
Sure, they can sell it, and a lot of times it comes down to someone who owns the house outright, and it's a lot easier to do that. If they have a mortgage on the house, the bank's gonna have something to say about that because they still got the note in their pocket.
Yeah,
they may say, "Yeah, you got to finish my house first before you do anything." Again, every bank's slightly different. As you know, when we get checks here, there a lot of times they have our name on it, the client, and then the bank on there. So the bank gets the money, they hold it, and they divvy it up as they see fit. So that's one of the other complicating factors. You want to buy a house typically from someone who doesn't have a mortgage. It's a lot easier deal, and you don't have to worry about these banks holding on to monies to pay contractors.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If you want to hop on with Brian Parúas, 850-233-9988. 850-233-9988, the phone number. And don't forget, you can find them on social media, too.
This is Kramer. News Talk at 101.
I thought you said we were going to ease up on the sweets after Christmas.
I didn't say we were going cold turkey.
This is Kramer.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
News Talk at 101. 1, 2, 3.
Brian Parúas from Major Parúas and the Storm Help Team hooked up with us today. Scott Major, if you're listening, all of our love, all of our adoration. Please know we all love you. Hugs and kisses. Kramer Show audience and Brian Parúas.
Definitely listening to you.
And Julie.
Just talk about you all day. Like Kramer.
I know. I'm the same about him. It's Scott. He's Scott.
What an amazing guy Kramer is. Oh, boy. Yes, I know what? Scott, I know.
I don't mean to make you jealous, but he did invite me to the yacht. Just saying.
Whatever. That's fine. I never get on that thing. It's okay. No problem.
You're probably on your yacht right now.
No, listen, I'm low speed, high drag, or high drag, low speed. I don't know, one or the other. I don't know.
Yeah, you and I.
I'm a simple man.
You and I both. We got the wife, the old ball and chain. I totally get it. Although. My wife left me a note the other day. Remind me, I'll email it to you. So right now, as far as you said we're at the end, kind of the latter phase of of residential. Where are we in commercial on that area? If you can give us some kind of scope.
Yeah, sure. I got a pretty. Yesterday we were talking to a commercial client who has $1 million claim. $1 million claim to a local business in Panama City. They have paid this poor person $0. Again, This person has been paid $0. And the excuse the insurance company gave them is, well, we weren't really sure about this one line item on the Xactimate estimate. So because of one line item that probably is in the tune of $5,000, they were refusing to pay the $1 million that they owe. But they pushed back to the insured saying, we're acting in good faith. We just don't understand this one line item. So as soon as you can give us an answer to that, then we'll go ahead and process your claim. It's been over a year, Kramer, and that's the nonsense they're telling these people. This person is not a astute contractor. This person doesn't understand construction, doesn't even know what a line item is. So how are they going to answer the question? We have to answer the question. So at the end of the day, we're like, this is nonsense. We filed the lawsuit yesterday, and as soon as we filed the lawsuit, the adjuster calls us the same day, because it's electronically filed, so it's an instant thing, And they call, why'd you guys file a lawsuit? I'm like, well, because what you're asking of this person is complete and utter nonsense. So that's what we're getting. And the quicker you get in, get into the queue and get your claim processed in the court system, the faster you're going to get paid. And again, a year ago, we were telling you, let's negotiate, let's get this resolved another way, let's discuss with the adjusters, because a lot of them are very, very good and they're very knowledgeable. But right now, what they're doing is just delaying and delaying. And some of these smaller carriers are having cash flow problems. And that's why I keep telling everyone, let's get these suits filed and get yourself into the queue in case some of the smaller carriers go out of business.
Wow, that's kind of scary to say that some of the smaller carriers are, that's one of the reasons. Do you find that the higher the number that they're owed, the longer the delay? Or do you see any correlation there?
I really don't. I mean, I've seen small, tiny claims of, $27,000 being delayed for the same exact reasons. They don't really care, not because they're trying to be spiteful or mean. It's just they have so many claims they're processing. They treat them all the same. To them, it really makes very little difference if they deny or delay $1 million claim to the desk adjuster or a $27,000 claim, because their desk is completely full of claims and they want to get rid of them, but they can't get out of their own way. If you can imagine that. Yeah,
but, I understand what you're saying, although I'm not very sympathetic to that, because I don't care how big the company is and how much they owe. You still owe it, and you still owe it on a timely basis.
Right. And it comes down, I think a lot of it is manpower. They don't have the manpower to actually process all of these claims, and that's why when you file the lawsuit, you typically get to the next level, the higher level adjuster, the attorney who have less claims to deal with, so they're not on the phone 20 times, 200 times a day talking to the insured. They're talking to a few folks who are in litigation. They know that there's time constraints that are given to them by the courts, and they have to do things in a timely fashion. So their goal is, let's get this one out of here. What's your number, Brian? I get that every day. Brian, what's your number?
Can I ask you this?
Flexibility on that number? I go, no. You got to pay the entire, unless you find something wrong with the estimate, you got to pay the entire estimate. And you got to pay our fee. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, if a claim, like you said, on the lower end, $27,000 versus a claim that's $1 million, do you still virtually, essentially have to go through the same person, or does that dollar amount kick it up to somebody else? Or, is that a dumb question?
Right. So a lot of times some of the lower level adjusters have a limited reserve. That's a fancy word for they haven't given them all the money. So they say, look, hey, Tim, you're new here, so you're going to handle these. Try to get these out of here. You got a $10,000 reserve or whatever. Try to get it done within that $10,000. All right. And sometimes when people are desperate and you offer them money that's, a little more than what they have in their pocket, they'll say, you know what, give it to me. They sign a release, they close their claim, see you later, have a great day. So they do that, and when they delay and they know people are under all of these pressures from the mortgage company, interest rates on their credit cards, they end up taking money, a lot less money than they really should have taken. And that's part of the program. That's their protocol. And then you go to the next adjuster, and they have a little more money. Oh, okay. We'll have conversation with them. Okay, I can give you $13,000. Oh, okay. And then sometimes you give up and take it. But again, remember, when you file the lawsuit, higher level people with less work typically get involved and have more money to dish out. And when you hear, coverage A, B, C, D, E, or whatever, these guys aren't talking in those numbers in those sections. They're like, what's your number? And they give you a lump sum check for everything. Here you go. Get out of my face. That's what they do. So they don't even break it down half the time by your coverages. They just give you a lump sum check and say, see you later. Take care. Have a great day.
Is a large part of your job negotiating, Brian?
That's all you do. I mean, all day long, you're always selling. Well, I'm always in the hustle, baby. So literally, I'm on the phone. When I get off the phone with you, I'll be on the phone with somebody else. So just all day long, I'm on the phone, making connections, talking to adjusters. I had an adjuster yesterday who I haven't spoken to in probably 7 years. Got on the horn. Oh, Brian, it's you. How much do you want on this claim? Give me 30. I'm like, I can do 35. Okay, fine. So she gave me extra money just because she knows the way I operate. I do things. I don't shoot from the hip. When I tell you something, I mean it. And when they're right, I tell them they're right.
Well, one of the things, or one of the strengths that Scott says about you is that you're just superb at getting the right people on the phone. And with what you do, I'm sure that would be a large part of your frustration during the day. But if you already know who and how to get them on the phone, probably a pretty easy thing after you've been doing it for so long.
Well, when you know the adjusters, or you know adjusters who are sitting next to other adjusters that you know, you go, hey, Tim, hey, is John in the office today? I'm like, yeah, he's sitting right here. Hey, can you tap on the shoulder, tell him it's Brian on the phone, tell him to give me a call. And I've done that, literally, because I know the adjusters so well that I know where they sit and who they're next to at the insurance company. I mean, good luck with that. It takes years of just calling, and it's just not easy. Calling, getting to know your adjusters, you know, and really making friends with them. And not because I want to pretend I'm friends with them. No, we become friends over the years, talking about our kids, talking about our favorite restaurants, what kind of beer they like drinking. And it's not because, you know, I'm trying to get into their head. It's just because when you're here 8 hours a day, you want to make sure your job is fun and you're dealing with people that you like. And you find commonality. And that's really the goal to negotiating, is finding that common ground that we may argue about the claim, but we have some commonality here. And you know I'm not a bad person, and I represent a nice family in Panama City who needs their money. And that's the way I do it, typically.
To get on
I want to give it all away.
To get on the air and talk with Brian, it's 850-233-9988, 850-233-9988. You can also find them on social media, too, either on Facebook or on Twitter. To contact them, 844-800-LAWS, 844-800-LAWS. We've been doing this for over a year, and every time we have them on, we're learning stuff constantly, and that shows you how broad the problem is down here and how many people are having issues. Still tons more to go through. 850-233-9988. Brian Parúas from Major Parúas and the Storm Help Team. More to come on the other side. Stand by.
This is the Kramer Show on Panama City's information station, News Talk at 101. Kramer in the morning, News Talk at 101.
Brian Parúas from Major Parúas and the Storm Help Team with us today. You got a question? You got a legal question? Something on your mind you want to ask him about? It could be about anything concerning post-Hurricane Michael recovery. We're getting there. We're getting there for sure. I mean, day by day by day. We just had Winn-Dixie that opened back up. We had 2 new locations of those huge stores that were down literally for 1 year after a hurricane. And they've opened back up. You do see some smaller places too that are opening back up. It's getting there. We have still digging out to do. So Brian, Scott, both offering up their time. They've been to town several times. I don't know when the next time you guys are coming, but I look forward to it. So, what else would you like to talk about today, Brian Parúas?
There's so much going on in the news. I mean, I heard your segment earlier before I got on. It was very, very intriguing. You know,
guns?
Database, I guess, for the guns and everything. I'm like, you got some hot topics, man. Let me tell you.
Well, that is kind of scary. And you have a law enforcement background, really. I mean, don't you think that we've gotten to a point where I don't think people are considering their privacy anymore? They're just giving it up without ever looking into when you sign up for Facebook, what are you signing up for? What are you giving them rights to?
Exactly right. You're giving up that's a portal into your private life. You're giving up a lot. Just like when you're in front of the public library and these people go, oh, can you sign my petition? He goes, what exactly are you signing? Where's that going to end up? You have no idea. So you got to be really careful. And I tell my kids, don't sign up for anything. Let me review it before you sign anything. Be careful what you put on social media because it's there forever. Anytime you put anything in writing, it doesn't go away. It's floating around there forever. I just don't. I try to avoid social media the best I can. Before I became an attorney. I was never on anything social. Let alone the radio. Forget about that. My whole life now is on display. But yeah, it's scary. It's scary what people can find out about you in 2 seconds.
What are your thoughts too on the impeachment process? That stuff changes so swiftly day to day. From a legal standpoint, though, how are you reading it?
It's pretty crazy what's going on. I mean, just as a concerned citizen, watching what's happening in the news, it seems like every other day they're coming up with something. I grew up, as a child, respect the office of the president, no matter who's in there. If they're doing something bad, I understand. Let's remove them. But at the end of the day, you got to let the president be the president, no matter who it is. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime, where we're mocking our own country. We look like a bunch of clowns. I mean, at the end of the day, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you got to respect that office. And when you're putting these things out there like this, without a lot of them are unfounded, how do you think the rest of the world is looking at us?
Let me ask you, too, about something else. There's two things that I want to ask you about concerning the law. Number one, I don't know if you said you listened to most of the first hour, and I don't know if you heard this or not, but there is a story about a father who divorced the wife. They had a son together. She has custody of the 7-year-old. And the 7-year-old told his mother, hey, I want to have gender reassignment surgery. She said, okay. So the husband took her to court. The jury threw it out and said that, yes, she can give the child consent to have gender reassignment surgery. From a legal standpoint, oh, my gosh.
Just as a father, I don't understand the issue, meaning... I'm not living through it. So again, if someone's born a certain way or they feel a certain way, that's a different topic altogether. And, people who have children who need to get, were born with this issue, I get it. But again, I'm not living through it, but I could tell you from a father and mother, they should be a united front. It's your child. You should come together, go to therapy. Don't put it out. Don't do this in public and go through the court system. This is your family, whether you're divorced or you hate each other. You got to come together because there was love at some point, right? You created a child, so you should be, a united front, going to talk to somebody who knows more than you do to figure out what's best for that child, not to put it into the court system and let a judge decide. I just don't think that's the right way to. And I'm an attorney, but I would rather see people deal with mental health professionals who are equipped to teach you techniques to deal with these issues, but rather than a judge who's looking at the black letter law.
Another thing is there's a bipartisan bill, and it's supported by Rick Scott. And what they are saying that car manufacturers are going to have manufacture cars that come standard with a device to detect blood alcohol levels. Is that infringing on your rights? In other words, some people are saying, hey, you know what? I wouldn't do it. But if I wanted to, I should have the right to be able to make the poor decision to get behind the wheel drunk. That's a thing that's coming up, and I was going to talk about it later in the show, but that's crazy.
All I could say is this. When I went through law school and I finally figured out that, hey, when you're on that road, it's owned by the state. So the second you decide to drive a dangerous instrumentality, which is a vehicle, on a state road and putting others in jeopardy, they can put certain restrictions on people. If you want to get drunk on your own land and drive your Jeep around off-road, that's a different story. But the second you are on a state-mandated road, controlled road, then you need to kind of fall in line with, what the state is saying. Whether this is right or wrong, that's to be debated. But, that's what really people forget. That road you're on is not your road. And you got to be on the same level, the same page as everybody else who's driving. Just like the texting issue, you're on your phone, that drives me crazy as well. You're there texting, and I'm like, listen, my kid's going to be driving in 2 months, so trying to be a good role model and tell them, look, I don't do it. I'm not saving lives, so there's no need for me to be on my phone ever in the vehicle. So you don't have a reason either. So yes, you got to keep that in the back of your mind when you're on a state-run road. You got to follow the law. Again, I think it's going a little too far putting a breathalyzer in a vehicle. Again, infringing on your rights. If you want to have a beer, you can have a beer or two. Once you have that third one, you may have a problem, though.
Yeah.
That car may not start.
By the way, how old is your kid? 14 or 15?
15, 16 December 22nd, and we're getting the Jeep ready for her. So let's see what happens.
Oh man, my son is 15, and he's got the permit too, and he turned 16 in March, and so I've been going through the process of driving with him and trying to not have a heart attack at every mile. And I'm getting better about it, but the thought now that he'll have eventual freedom blows my mind.
Kramer, you and me both, my friend. You and me both. And remember this, when I sit there and really pay attention to her driving, she's awful. When I just look away or close my eyes, she knows, oh, my God, Dad's not paying attention to the road, so I better take it up. And then she's perfect on the road. It's amazing. What a difference when they know they don't have me to fall back on. But it's a terrifying thing. I'm trying to do the best I can because at the end of the day, our firm also handles personal injury matters and car accidents.
Oh, boy.
I see them daily. So and I try to, bring these lessons home. Hey, this kid got into a bad accident because he was texting, or he had too many people in the car and his friends ended up suing him for the accident. Because remember, a passenger is always innocent. Whether you are at fault or not in driving the vehicle, they're always going to be innocent, and they can always sue you because there could be a level of comparative negligence on the part of the driver, even though they weren't ticketed, and your kid gets sued. And if your kid's a minor, they're really suing the parents.
I don't want it anymore. I want them to be 5 again.
Don't let your kids drive their friends around because as soon as something happens, they're no longer your friends and they're looking for money.
See, that's so weird that you say that because the other day, while we're kicking it like, with our feet up on the fence here, my son, they had homecoming and they were going to go to a bonfire. And I said, well, who's going to take you to the bonfire? And he goes, Lexi. And I go, who the heck is Lexi? Lexi, turns out, is a senior and 17, and Lexi came over to get him, to take him to the bonfire. And that is it's a mind-blowing thing. I mean, mentally high fives, but then again, oh my God, he's at the point now where his friends are driving, and I don't like it.
It's there's a lot going on. All I can tell you is this: I have a daughter, love her. She's my best friend. I don't know if she knows that though, but in my mind she is. So all I do is I try to empower her with knowledge. I try to keep her as busy as possible. And that's the one thing, that's the one safety net that I have. She's so busy, she can't think about anything else. She has no time. She's AP classes over here, class president, you name it, she's doing it. Varsity, golf, varsity cheer, varsity tennis. Now she's playing soccer. I'm like, good. The more you can do, the better. Get involved in your high school. Be a part of that fabric, and I think you get a lot more out of the experience, and you're not doing, fooling around all the time. Because you're seen as one of the leaders of the high school. It's not a good thing to be the one, trying to smoke a cigarette in the bathroom or whatever. You're more under a microscope. So I think your son should follow those and follow that, which he's probably doing already.
No, my son just leveled up on Fortnite, and we celebrated. We thought that was a huge achievement for him. So I'm not going to oversell that whole.
That's my son. Yes, that's my son. He's more like me.
Unfortunately, mine is too. But when it comes to the hurricane, if you've got a question, you want to talk to Brian Parúas from Major Parúas and the Storm Help Team, 850-233-9988, 850-233-9988. I want to ask you, too, about contractors and what rights the people have as far as contractors are going, because it seems like it's kind of shifted in our calls, our calls and comments and questions on Facebook. They've kind of shifted from talking about insurance and all of that. Now everybody seems to be talking about contractors.
Yeah, and it's great that you brought that up. I don't know, the last time I was on the show, I gave people some information regarding, looking up licensing and that kind of thing here in Florida, which is very, very important to make sure and verify that these contractors are licensed through the Department of Professional, DBPR, and they, you can go online and look them up, make sure that they have a license, and they are reputable, and they don't have a bunch of complaints, and that's half the battle. But again, if you get a local contractor who's hiring people from other states who are working under their license, and you think you're hiring the guy that you know, 9 times out of 10, they're not the guy that you know. But they are still liable for anything that goes wrong. And remember, when they hire folks who may not be documented, let's say, or they're from another country or whatever, they have to have the workers' comp insurance to protect you, because if they get hurt on your property, they can sue the homeowner for injuries sustained while doing work on your property. So make sure, at the very least, that these contractors have the proper workers' compensation insurance so they can't sue you if they end up falling in a hole or falling through your roof.
Yeah, that's important to know. And so what are some other things that people should do before they hire a contractor? I mean, outside of the obvious, look them up online, try to, reach out and find the ratings and all that. But what else?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to do is the second you go to engage a contractor, grab the contract that they're providing you and have an attorney review it for you. It'll cost you a couple $100, okay, to have them review it, rewrite it, put in certain clauses that'll help you. Like, if you have to sue your contractor and you win, they have to pay your attorney's fees and costs. Wow, that's one sentence. But that changes the entire dynamic of the contract. Now you got a pressure point. Now you can do what Brand Frank did to me with one hand and crush this contractor if he doesn't fulfill his obligations under the contract. But that's the most important thing, to avoid litigation. And how do you avoid litigation? By having a really well-written contract that spells out everything, that puts in certain penalties for not finishing the work timely. So that's how you get them. But I would tell you this, most of the contractors out there, they do great work. Right now, they're just overwhelmed, and that's the biggest concern. They're so overwhelmed that are they just kind of just getting through the job, doing the bare minimum to get the money from you, and that's where it gets really tricky. So you have to make sure that they're pulling permits, that the city inspectors are coming out there to inspect the work and giving you certificate of occupancy at the end of it all. So these things are all important. But the number one thing to me goes back to that contract that you signed. And sometimes you sign terrible contracts where you gave away all of your rights and gave all your rights to the contractor. We don't want that to happen. And we don't mind reviewing them for free. You want us to review your contract? We'll review it for you. Again, it's not a problem. We will review contracts, let you know, point you in the right direction. It's the least we could do for the people of Panama City.
So before you hire a certain contractor to do certain work, you can call up you guys, and that's something that you'll discuss. And that's good to know, that it's not going to be $10,000 to have to go over a contract to make sure that it's on the up and up and says what it's supposed to be.
People hear attorneys and they get all worried. They're going to charge them how many thousands of dollars. Look, a free review is a free review. Again, if we have to rewrite things, we can work out something for you at the end of the day. But really, we care about the people in Panama City. We want to make sure you can trust lawyers again, which is hard to even say in the same sentence. But the reality is, if you have a well-written contract, you'll avoid all these problems later. I don't want you to hire a lawyer to sue somebody locally in Panama City. It's the last thing you want to do. So if you have a well-written contract, you avoid all these things, because these folks are going to read and go, wow, okay, we're kind of screwed here under this contract. If we don't perform, we're going to have a problem. So then, that's really the reality of it. Once you have that written down and it's all legal, it's binding. There you go.
That's huge advice. Brian Parúas from Major Parúas and the Storm Help Team in for Scott Major today. So if you got a question, 850-233-9988. Back with Brian in a flash. Stand by.
This is Kramer.
I call it fun.
News Talk at 101.
Brian Parúas from Major. How long has it been? I can't get it right still. Major Parúas and the Storm Help Team. It's one of those days. Brian, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Look, here's how to get in contact with Brian or Scott. It's very easy to do. Just pick up the phone, 844-800-LAWS. 844-800-LAWS. Scott, the other day, was kind of outlining the process of what happens when you call. And I think you brought up another good point. Something that I try to mention on a consistent basis when I have you guys on is I like the fact that when you guys get on, you put a human element into something that people are afraid of. And people are, in general, kind of afraid to hire a lawyer because they feel like, well, that, let's not get, that's on another level. And you guys humanize it. And it's not that, it's about being mean or doing somebody wrong. It's about you getting what is right in your situation. Not trying to take advantage of anybody. Not trying to, be shifty. But trying to get what's owed. And oftentimes, as we're seeing, these insurance companies, unless somebody like Brian Parúas gets involved, are not going to budge.
Yeah, there's really no need for them to budge. What's the problem if they don't? They got plenty of other claims to worry about. So why budge on this one? They're going to budge on the ones that are scarier, the ones that there's potential bad faith complication or element to it, the one where they have a law firm that litigates, that tries their own cases like we do. We don't farm out these cases. It'll be us trying the case in Bay County. It'll be our team there litigating the case. So that's the difference. So a lot of you, some other firms, not all of them, but some other firms will take your claim, they'll work it up a little bit, send it out to another firm who will actually try the case, because it takes a lot of money to try a case. You know, in some cases, we tried a case last year. We invested $200,000 of our own money to try. We won, but we could have lost. You lose a couple of those in a row, you're having a bad year. You know what I mean? So that's our money invested. So we have skin in the game. And that's the reality of what we do. We put our money where our mouth is. And if we tell you we're going to take it, we're going to take it to the mat, it's going to be us taking it to the mat, nobody else.
And there may be issues, too, that you think, well, I don't really need an attorney for that. You don't know. Sometimes, just like he said a while ago, getting someone to go over the contract that you're going to sign with a contractor and changing one sentence could mean that, could be a major, major big deal.
Yeah. Listen, when I bought my first house or my second house, we had an issue with a realtor at the closing, and, I'm all emotional and I'm all angry, and could I have figured out the answer or really help myself? Maybe, but the last thing you want to do is represent yourself in an emotional situation. So I hired an attorney. I hired an attorney to represent me, a real estate attorney who got it done in 3 phone calls.
Oh, wow.
Money well spent. And you know what? It took a lot of stress off of my shoulders. And because what happens if you're representing yourself, who do you think's going to suffer? Me, my wife, my kids. I'm going to be in a bad mood all the time. Let the other guy, who's a professional, handle it and take the stress and alleviate some of the stress that I was going through.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed from the calls that we've gotten over the course of 1 year that everybody is extremely emotionally invested, and I get it, because it's your home, it's your belonging, it's your property. It's I totally understand that.
Who you are as a person, it's your castle. I mean, this is my little. I don't care how big or small. It's my castle. This is my home. This is what I created. I've worked hard to do. I mow my lawn, whatever. I pressure wash my roof, which I don't recommend. Super dangerous. It's your castle. You want to protect it. And again, you want to do everything you can to put yourself in the best position to help yourself, your family rebuild your castle.
To call and reach out to Brian Parúas, Scott Major, 844-800-LAWS, 844-800-LAWS. Scott, we've always talked about Scott's background. You have an interesting background, Brian.
Yeah, it's pretty. I'll tell you in 2 seconds. So, was a stock boy, parked cars, valeted for years, then ended up working on some political campaigns here locally, ended up working for the former Senate President of the state of Florida, Jim Scott, great man. Upon his retirement, I went into federal service working with the Marine Enforcement Division over Department of Justice, Miami River, Port of Miami. That was a lot of fun, doing drug interdictions, catching stowaways.
Wow.
Then, after 9/11, transferred over to the Federal Air Marshal Service without anybody knowing. Told my family after I got hired. So flew around on airplanes with guns. It was pretty interesting, needless to say, drinking beer and having chicken wings in all different places. And then after I did that, I went to law school, went back as a federal prosecutor for ICE, prosecuting criminal aliens. After my stint again with the government, I decided to go into private practice and haven't looked back. So,
God.
So far so good. Met the man of my dreams, Scott Major, and rewrote history. And every day is an interesting adventure. But the reality of our partnership and friendship, friends first, partner second, is we actually like each other, and we put friendship, ahead of being partners. And we put our clients ahead of ourselves. So that's the reality of the way we work. So we can sleep at night. We're never looking over our shoulders because we know we're doing the right thing or trying to do the best we can to do the right thing.
Yeah, I don't want to just skip over that like it's gravy, but I mean, your background is really crazy. One of the most impressive things about Brian is that Brian, like me, I totally relate to this because I hate to fly. I hate to fly, and I mean I hate to fly. And right. So does Brian. But Brian somehow overcame that fear and wound up becoming a marshal. I still, that just is baffling to me.
It was the first day after leaving training, and I'm on the plane with a gun, and I hate flying. I'm scared of heights, and I'm short to top it all off. Yes, I did that, but I did it because, look, I wasn't in the military. I wanted to give back to this great country of mine who's given me so much and continues to give me so much that I felt that's my little way of giving back and saying, hey, thanks. So I jumped on an airplane and flew pretty much, nonstop right after 9/11, which was the time when we were all on edge, obviously, after what happened. And I flew daily, basically. And then we did a lot of international trips. But again, after 6 months of doing that, you really enjoyed flying. I'm like, oh, I love flying. Why didn't I do this earlier? But again, it took me 6 months to really say, okay, I can handle this now. And I enjoy it. Now I miss it. I'm like, man, I wish I was on an airplane today.
Huh.
But yeah, it wasn't an easy thing to overcome.
So you did get to the point where it was like hopping in a car. I mean, you didn't even think about it. You just did it, and it didn't bother you at all.
Just did it and came up with different cover stories because, when you see a guy like myself flying, let's say, in the first class cabin heading to Heathrow in London, they're like, this is like a $20,000 round trip ticket. What does this guy do for a living? And again, so you have to come up with these backstories, and depending on where I was flying to, I would dress the part, or if I was going to D.C., I was a lobbyist for the day.
Oh.
I even had business cards made up with my lobbying, firm's name and
seriously
phone number. Oh yeah, and I had fake IDs when I travel.
Oh.
And I had all my reservations were done under a different name. It was pretty cool. I mean, that was really a low level. I wasn't one of these secret agent guys, but we had to have a certain amount of, you had to be, have some discretion when we were flying because they would always pick you out. When you see a 25-year-old, 30-year-old guy who's in shape flying first class with a bunch of business people, they're like, who's that dude? What's he doing up here with the short hair?
That is so cool. Brian, we're up on the hour. Thank you, man. What a great hour and some great information. And to contact...
I love it.
Get on the horn with these guys. 844-800-LOST from Brian Parúas and Scott Major. You're the best, man. Thank you so much, Brian.
The best, Kramer. I'll be here answering the phones, folks. You call, I'm ready. Take care.
All right, pal. I'll see you later.
This is the Kramer Show. The phone is now open, and the phone operators are standing by. 850-233-9988. This is Panama City's new #1 king of morning radio. This is Kramer.